Hey Kings and Dragons, Dragon King 551 here. Today I bring you another movie review video. This one's all about the Spider-Man No Way Home movie. Again, this is not going to be spoiler free. It has spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, click off it. But if you just want to watch it anyway and you just don't care about spoilers, go right ahead, watch this video at your own pace. But I'm telling you right now, if you have not seen the movie and you don't want any spoilers, click off the video, come back at a later time. You have been warned. This is your final warning before I go into spoilers and stuff. If you do not want to have any spoiled features before you go see the movie. And there also will be a disclaimer in the title saying non-spoiler free movie review video. So if you have not seen that movie, please click off it and do not go into depth. You have been warned. Other than that, let's get right into the spoilers. Let's get right into this movie. Let's go right into the main thing. Let's talk about the villains first. Obviously, this movie picks up right after Far From Home. I was about to say No Way Home. That's the movie right now. So that Far From Home, it picks up right after that movie where the Mysterio reveals his identity. He jumps off. He's with Mary Jane. Obviously, all of this stuff. The thing that I don't understand, though, is J.K. Simmons, obviously, who plays Jojo Jameson, is the original guy who plays him in Tobey Maguire's story. How did he get into the MCU? Because the spell has not been casted yet. I'll tell you that part. The spell was not casted at that point yet. So I don't know how he got into the MCU. There's also stuff such as where I will be talking about this at a later date, where such as Morbius, there's a movie coming out, Morbius, made by Sony, where you see the Daily Bugle from, I believe it's Tobey Maguire. You see Oscorp from Andrew Garfield's story, and then I think there's some aspects from Tom Holland. So I don't even know where that movie takes place. But point is that we don't know where J.K. Simmons, how he got in. So obviously Tom goes and wants to spell because now everyone finds out he's even at his home. Happy obviously broke up with Aunt May, and all of this stuff is happening. So he goes to him and says, we want the spell. But the spell gets changed too much because of, I want Aunt May to remember. I want my best friends to remember. The spell explodes, and Doctor Strange has to contain it somehow. What happens is that now you got basically Spider-Man fighting all these villains. You got him fighting Doc Ock, and Doc Ock tries to steal nanotech. He takes the nanotechnology and puts it onto himself. He's smart enough to know he's not really Peter Parker, but at least Tom controls him with like his special tech. So now basically the arms are controlled by Peter. So that's a very good feature to have. So obviously all the villains come and they've all been captured. Tom lets them out and freaking tries to help them to the best of their ability. But the one that turns evil is obviously Green Goblin because he doesn't accept it, and he becomes a psychotic maniac and stuff. Let's go right into the other things. Andrew and Toby, they finally appear because Ned has magic. He uses a sling ring because obviously Peter freaking uses geometry with the mirror dimension and basically beats Doctor Strange and takes the sling ring magic, gives it to Ned, and Ned's able to be able to do what he has to do. So Andrew and Toby obviously come in and try to help Peter because Aunt May dies, and she says, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, obviously, Andrew and Toby talk about their personal death experiences, such as Uncle Ben said that the night he died, because they rephrase it and said, with great power comes great responsibility. Then they talk about the deaths and they blame themselves. So first, Tom blames himself for Aunt May dying. Peter blames himself, obviously, Peter blames himself for Uncle Ben's death. And Andrew blames himself for Gwen, says she was my MJ, basically. I do have one other thing where there is this. The Spider-Man story, as we do see in the PlayStation video game, and it is actually in the movie. It's called Feast, which is a place that Aunt May tries to help people to the best of their ability. So is it possible that Miles Morales might appear in somewhere in that aspect, and he will be there soon as later down the line? Because who's the crime boss there? Mr. Negative. And he is one of the baddest mans around. So obviously that's an aspect from the PlayStation game, but is it possible that they have that come into fruition and they're taking some aspects from the PS4 game and putting them into the movie? Yes, I could see that happening. Now, so they talk about those deaths. Ned has magic. Andrew does redeem himself as MJ falls off a building, and basically Andrew dives and doesn't trust his webs, catches her because he knows he couldn't save Gwen. So he tries to find, because like basically Toby and Tom both have MJ and they're all designing their web shooters, but I mean, Toby doesn't have web shooters. He comes right out of his skin right here. So it's really interesting to see the aspects of all of them designing, talking about web shooters and stuff, and where Andrew basically says, I no longer pulled my punches. He became angry. And that's kind of what happened in the comics when Gwen died. So it was kind of interesting to see that aspect where he would no longer pull his punches. He just has to find his MJ in the story. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. But let's go right into a speech that can parallel from Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire, to this movie. Now, I kind of like how they said Doctor Strange. I'm not talking about that scene though, obviously. I'm talking about a different scene. So in there, Doc Ock obviously says lazy but brilliant, and Peter always says trying to do better. So then we see Doc Ock and Peter interact one more time in the story, where it says, you're all grown up now. How are you? And he says, trying to do better. So it's possible that MJ and him are together somehow, and they're trying to do better, but there's not really confirmation. So I don't know what happens there. Now, I'm going to talk about how Spider-Man, all of them help the villains. You finally get to see all three of them swing into action. It was really awesome. You also get to see Peter trying to kill Green Goblin, but Tom's powers, but Toby's power is so strong, he's able to hold back the glider. It was really interesting to see their spider senses and everything working, Tinga and stuff. It's funny how they talked about the Avengers, but everything is sad in that. And then wham! Green Goblin stabs Toby. I was so sad. I almost thought he died, but then he didn't. So I was happy that none of them died. And everyone's like, oh, Emma Stone. Nope. Emma Stone is not going to become Spider-Gwen, but everything else was right. They were in the movie. Andrew redeemed himself. Everything worked out in those aspects. So, I mean, he's like, I've been stabbed multiple times, so it's okay. I'm not going to die. And basically Green Goblin and all of them become clear. Now, the problem is that the only way to close the craziness of all the villains coming out of the story is Peter must cast the original spell. They must cast the original spell. The spell works. Everyone forgets Peter, but he remembers everything. So they must cast the original spell. Everyone must forget Peter Parker, which is sad, but I think all the Avengers will remember him as Spider-Man and remember him. They just won't remember that he's Peter Parker. So it's kind of like that story is over. There is no Peter Parker remembrance for him. I mean, obviously, Tony's going to remember because he's dead and all of that and stuff. But there is no Peter Parker anymore. It's just Spider-Man. Everyone remembers Spider-Man. So the spell works. Ned and MJ forget him, and basically there is none of that. Now everyone's like, oh my goodness. Yes, but now we could have Harry Osborn finally, and we could have also Gwen Stacy into the story and actually have that adaptation where MJ kind of forgets and everything works out, where Peter says, I got to just move on and with my life. Happy tries to interact with Peter at the grave. And basically they're just like, how do I know? And it's like through Spider-Man basically, and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, yeah, that's how I knew knew her. And they talk about Aunt May. So in that one snowy scene where like Peter tries to go to the cafeteria, that diner, kind of reminds me of the Miles Morales game and obviously the Spider-Man video game. So obviously he backs off and none of that really happens. Now I'm going to talk about the final scene here, because this final scene, and if you guys have played the PS4 video game, you know what I'm talking about. The final scene is the PS4 opening, because you see him move into a room and it's like, I'll get that red. It's like funny, but you finally see that Tom has all the designs his own suit where it's more like a glossy finish, kind of like the Toby aspect of the original suit and the Andrew aspect, but the suit is small with a small black logo and it's more of a glossy blue and red, and the traditional suit is back. I love that Tom finally created one, didn't rely on the Stark tech that he had and stuff, and was able to design his own suit. And it was really interesting to see it. But the aspects of the suit were great, and it was just awesome to see him swinging through the air and stuff. Maybe we'll see Miles Morales. There are people in the sky you could see in when Doctor Strange was trying to close the spell, such as Scorpion, maybe Kraven the Hunter, and there were a couple other ones. But I'm really hoping that we see Scorpion. I know everyone's like, well, why wasn't there a final Sinister Six, and why was it so much better than the other two? I will be talking about why this movie is better than those movies. I will be ranking them in a later video. Point is that the reason there wasn't a Sinister Six is because there was no point towards it, and it was just better with the 5 villains. So, yeah. But now I'm going to go right into the stuff that everyone's going to be freaking out about the 3 next trilogies. Obviously, we could see Mr. Negative and a couple other guys in the real Sinister Six in Tom Holland's universe, where we get an actual Doc Ock in his universe and all these other people in his universe. Now, here it is, the post-credit scenes. So we see the Venom post-credit scene. They talk about Thanos and all of this, and they talk about Andrew Garfield, but then the spell erases them back. But a piece of the Venom symbiote breaks off of them. So yes, is the actor who plays Venom in those movies will not be playing the new Venom. Maybe there'll be a new Eddie Brock, but now we have the Venom symbiote in the MCU, so we could finally get a Venom powered Tom Holland if we wanted it, and it's in there. Or we could get maybe Miles Morales and takes it or something. I don't know what they're doing, but we see that. Now for the final one, the Doctor Strange post-credit scene. Now this one, everyone was like, wait, I'm confused. What's going on here? It was not a Doctor Strange so much post-credit scene. It was a trailer for the Multiverse of Madness. So when they cast that spell, everything was dangerous. And if you've seen What If, Doctor Strange becomes evil. So there's an evil side of Doctor Strange. Maybe he's the villain, or they're talking about Mephisto and stuff. And we finally get to see Wanda, and she says to Doctor Strange, I knew you'd finally talk about me and find me and stuff. And he's like, I'm not talking about Westville. I'm talking about what do you know about the multiverse? And they're talking about Wong and all of these villains. So it was really cool to see that trailer. When the full trailer actually gets released out of the post-credit scene and on YouTube, I will make a reaction. I will also be linking the trailer. But those are all my thoughts about this movie. I thought it was really good. It was really sad to see Aunt May die so early in the story of Tom Holland. But we finally get the scene that everyone's been waiting for since the ones, where's the remorse? Where's the with great power comes great responsibility scene? And we finally got it. They say so long. I feel like the villains can now be good guys and they don't have to be always bad, and they get redemption now. So I really love the story. With the multiverse, though, anything can happen now with Multiverse of Madness. You could have Andrew and Toby come back into the story, and you could actually have a live action Into the Spider-Verse action story if we wanted it. I don't have any more things to say. I love the story. Those are all my spoilers. Those are all the things I have to say about it. Obviously, the review of the thing, I did not talk much about that. 94, 99 by the audience. I rate it, obviously, 9.8 out of 10, 98%. I think it was just really, really good. And I don't know if a movie will ever get a 10 out of 10 out of me, because that just seems so biased, and I don't want to sound so biased to a movie like that. I would say maybe Avengers Endgame is the same tier, maybe slightly higher, close to 10 out of 10. But a lot of people can say, oh, this movie was better because of the villains and stuff, and yada, yada, yada. But until next time, guys, don't forget to stay radical. I'll see you in the next one. And as they always say in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And this is been my movie review for this movie. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. One last thing I forgot to mention in my movie review that is very sad, and I was looking forward the whole entire time. There was no Stan Lee cameo. I feel very upset about this because Spider-Man was his favorite character he ever wrote due to a fly being on a wall. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and I guess he was watching in heaven, and happy that we got all 3 Spider-Man. But that's all I had to say for this last little tiny clip. So until next time, guys, don't forget to stay radical. I'll see you in the next one. And with great power comes great responsibility.